handful of these come up in the last few years, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that they are.
Absolutely, yeah. Less than 1%, and even if it's as much as 5% of these shootings are made by gender confused people, like, that's pretty significant. I'm gonna just say that.
Absolutely.
It's not just it is a mental problem.
Not directly
and I used to be a lot more.
And he's politically with the police unions. So I think it's above his pay grade. And as a citizen for that city, I think it's an important issue. As long as it's coordinated, you just don't want a hodgepodge of resources being thrown at a problem and no coordination, because that's going to be inefficient too, and that's probably going to cause other problems.
There's the microphone. I knew it was there somewhere. Yes, he tends to obfuscate when he's asked direct questions. Many politicians do, but I note with a degree of frustration that his relationship with reporters who ask probing questions is not particularly a good one, and I have noticed that he has been ducking tough questions like that, even if they're asked respectfully. It's okay to ask tough questions. You should ask them respectfully, in my opinion. At least that's the way I operate. But that doesn't mean you ought not to ask the question because you're trying to be respectful and you're afraid to ask tough questions. And that's an important question for the people of Chicago.
Give me 2 seconds.
You know, here's another thing that comes to mind. These National Guards members are being conscripted into police service. And if in fact the anecdotal Washington, D.C. model, which it's really too soon to tell whether it could be sustained in keeping crime down to the level that it's trending right now since the inception of these federal assets. The problem is these police departments, especially big city departments, are having a heck of a time recruiting. People don't want to work for them. To the point where here in New York City, and I'm not so sure, I feel comfortable with this. On the one hand, I want to see more officers, because I believe that a presence of police is a deterrence. But on the other hand, they're lowering the qualifications. And I don't know whether I like that.
That is correct, sir.
We ask a lot of people who protect us. So if the answer is just throwing more people at the problem, and you argue, well, National Guard, they ought not to be doing it. We should have more police officers. They can't hire them.
My name is. I live on.
There are bounties out for police officers. Southern
speak up. I got earplugs in.
Police departments in communities where the weather is so much better than New York City, especially in the winter,
on the plate, right?
Are actively recruiting New York City police officers. They'll help them with their moving expenses. They'll pay them a bounty to move and join their police departments. And hey, they have seasoned officers who they don't have to train before putting them on the street. You could go in the subways of New York City and see advertisements that are directed to current New York City police officers inviting them to apply for jobs in southern police departments. A brilliant move on their part, but the point is, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New York City, and a lot of other police departments, they're having a hard time recruiting officers, and that is part of the problem as well, if in fact we believe throwing more cops at the issue is a solution. Thank you, Howard Scott.
Gary, in that article, Trump said, actually, too, he said, people say we don't want a dictator, but maybe people like a dictator. He did even after, and he said he's not a dictator, but then he said maybe people like dictators. So very interesting. Talking out of multiple sides.
Boy, do you want to put that idea in the minds of the people when you're the president of the United States, which is not a dictatorship? That's really, I didn't hear that part of the gaggle. Wow.
He did say that. I think it was that guy. Anyway, I heard they played the clip. Hex on Tap today. It was a great Lumen podcast. Yeah, he did say it. So it was not, I did not read it quoted. I heard him say it. Yeah, so it was very interesting. Yeah, I think that, so as you alluded to, Gary, I mean, what liberties are we willing to give away, right? I'm sure we could stop crime, all crime in D.C. tomorrow in any other city. Just pull a full military presence and put a curfew at 5 o'clock and arrest anybody that's seen on the street. I mean, you could look, we could stop crime quickly. It wouldn't be sustainable, right? Nor is the drop sustainable. Here, we got, 30 days or whatever, this is, I think, permissible, and then it's gone, right? So it's not a systemic solution. I do think Democrats should not, and I've been guilty of this too, so I'm being critical of myself here. But I think, when Trump lies and says, like, there hasn't been a murder-free week in D.C. in like 20 years, okay? I mean, there's been 3 since February, right? I mean, that's just not true. But then we sort of say the data's wrong, instead of saying, yeah, like we're working on the problem. Please help us. How can you help us? And I think that might be more constructive. And there are, one interesting thing, for instance, the big beautiful bill has cut lots of programs that have shown to be been effective. Programs for youth, to after-school programs, things that occupy youth and reduce crime, keep them out of the criminal justice system, and help youth in distressed areas have their energies focused in constructive and creative ways. So they're, like in Chicago, they have programs, I know after-school programs that offer academic and athletic and artistic things. Rahm Emanuel was just talking about them. I was listening to a podcast he was on. So yeah, I mean, and so President Trump presided over cutting programs that have been effective in reducing crime. So, I don't know what the deal with that is, so to speak. But yeah, the other thing is, you look at like sustainable efforts. I mean, Clinton, we had a massive crime problem in the 90s, massive. Clinton put federal funding to get 100,000 cops on the streets, right? There was also the assault weapons bill, those other things. I mean, there was a significant drop in crime, right? And that's a systemic thing, right? It's not National Guard running around with some theatrics and keeping people from going out to dinner in Georgetown or whatever. That's real systemic policing, right? And, that's a solution, right? If President Trump really is concerned about crime, get the Republic to put cops on the streets, community policing, walking beats, talking to neighbors, like being a constructive police presence, learning the ins and outs of the neighborhood, gaining the community's trust. Do that kind of stuff. That stuff works. It's proven to work. The other thing that's interesting, Gary, do you know, my friend, Gary, what the top crime city, the city with the highest crime rate in the country is, Gary? Do you know?
Per capita of cities its size, you have to include all that. I think Memphis.
It is Memphis, Gary. It is Memphis. And Nashville is also on that list, as is Houston. These cities all have higher crime rates in D.C. Why aren't we putting the National Guard there? What's the difference, right? These are in red states, right? So this is not just theatrics; it's also political. I think there's racial undertones as well. But there's, these, when he talks about L.A., New York, Chicago, they aren't the top crime cities. Memphis, Nashville, and Houston all have higher crime rates. Why is he talking about those? Because they're red states. Right? Now, I'm not saying there aren't blue state cities too. If you look on the top 10 list, DC is number 10. The crime rate's going down, but still too high. But again, you could do things that are actually systemic to help that, not just do theatrics and have National Guard on the street for a couple weeks. So I mean, yeah, I think crime is on the decline. In some cities, it is out of control. And some cities are doing a good job at keeping that trend going the right way, right, going down. But if you want to see that trend go down more drastically, it's not going to be military presence on the street. It's going to be good old-fashioned police work, community policing. It's going to be dealing with poverty. It's going to be educating people so they have options, they don't turn to crime. It's this kind of stuff that actually makes a systemic difference, right? This is theater. It's theater, and I think he likes, look, he likes.
Look at me, I'm moving. National Guard, they're coming in. It's beautiful. They come in like these with these guns. You ought to see these guys. They're big, like they have like the crook guns. Okay, I mean, look, some of these guys, they come like, I mean, wow. I say to Putin, look at these. It's this kind of stuff, right? So I think crime. There are certain cities where it's a huge problem. A lot of them in red states. And why isn't there a crisis with those cities? No, I don't think the National Guard is a great idea. Thank you, Gary, and good day.
Well, there's something that you said in the very beginning that I don't want to get lost with all the other things that are being
With
said.
all the profundity I utter, Gary, it's stuff not to get lost. I lose myself sometimes with all I bring.
I know that you have pinned to your...
trying to back me and to book me on the rational discussion for. I say I'm a headliner over at the big show. Okay, I don't do the weekend shows in Omaha.
Well, I know that you lose yourself so much that you have your address pinned to your shirt, so somebody can direct you to your home if you forget how to get home. I know that. But at any rate, the thing that you said in the beginning that I think needs to be underscored is that this is a 30-day project. What happens when the National Guard leaves? It's not sustainable. So here's a couple analogies. When there is a huge snowstorm obviously in a northern city, a crime-ridden northern city, crime takes a holiday. You might find there to be domestic violence issues because people are cooped up with their significant other, and after 5 minutes of being forced to be in each other's company, they might get on each other's nerves. But in terms of crimes against property and crimes against persons unknown to the perpetrator, they disappear. The same thing is with during COVID. During COVID, the crime rate went down because people were not out on the streets. It just adversely affected the opportunity to commit crimes. Well, the snow melts and the crimes return to those cities, and the COVID goes away, and the crime returns to all of America. So what happens when the National Guard leaves Washington, D.C.? That's really a good point. It's not sustainable. So if, in fact, throwing a lot of uniformed folks into an area that is perceived to be crime-ridden is an effective tool, we know for sure it is effective in making one feel safer. I can tell you that whenever there's a heinous crime on the subways, the NYPD and the mayor suddenly say, we're going to send more cops onto the subways, and they're down there for a week and then they disappear. But during the week that they are there, I feel more comfortable on the subways. And so we know that it helps in our perceptions of safety when you see a lot of cops around. Well, what's going to happen when the National Guard troops leave Washington, D.C.? That's really an excellent point. Thank you, Scott. Brian.
Hi, Gary. Yeah, sustainable is a really good point. Is crime out of control? I would say yes. Has it gone down a little bit? Yes, and I'll come back to that. Do we need the National Guard? I don't think so. I mean, when you think of National Guard coming in, you think of like some kind of a real emergency. I don't think we had that kind of emergency. And then on the other hand, he's threatening cities like New York and Chicago, which are large cities, Democrat mayors, but they're by per capita not the most dangerous cities. The ones that are on the top of the list are St. Louis and Memphis. They're not threatening those cities. So are you using the National Guard just to poke Democrats in the eye, or are you really meaning to do something meaningful? The reason I say the crime has gone down, I think the crime escalated when people were all about this defund the police and all that stuff. I mean, you've heard news stories about mob-like smash and grabs or mob-like shoplifting. They'd raid the stores and grab stuff and run off. And I haven't seen that happen in the news in quite a while. But in our city, the state has recently taken control of our police department. That was arguably whether it was warranted or not. I don't.
What city is that, Brian?
St. Louis, and it's already got control. It's had control of Kansas City, and you still don't see much difference over there either. So I don't know if that was a political thing or if it really did much good.
And I'm presuming that since you're in St. Louis, when you refer to Kansas City, you're referring to Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
Okay, because you have to make that distinction.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Where was I? But yeah, I mean, crime. I don't really know what DC's like, because I don't live there or get their news much. But in St. Louis, like when the National Guard first hit the streets, and especially when they didn't have weapons, I was kind of afraid. I'm really surprised no incidents have happened. If they were rolling into St. Louis, I think that would be a different story. These people out here, they don't play. I mean, we've had people on the highway getting shot by straight bullets with rolling gun battles. I mean, there's places I wouldn't go on a bet. I mean, that kind of thing makes you think that crime is out of control. And I put in the chat when I was talking about, just earlier this year, these people with these little sports cars and stuff. I mean, they took over and blocked off a whole neighborhood and was doing, like the donuts and the stunts and all of that. And it took the police a long time to ever get that, cleared out. And if they would have taken the initiative to call in backup from the state patrol or something. But, I don't know if they don't know how to deal with these things, or if they're afraid to, trigger backlash, or what the deal is. But, but the crime is out of control. How would you feel that bold to do something like that? We've had, hordes of people on the motorcycles taking over parts of downtown, the streets. I mean, but really the gun violence is really bad. But I mean, so the perception that crime is bad it is, and I don't know if the National Guard, like you said, it's not sustainable. I think it would help. But when people are driving down the highway and you see a car, the police car on the side of the road, or shooting radar, what do people do? And you're not about to carjack somebody if you see the policeman on the corner. It's been proven that uniforms on the streets do help. And I think if they took that money and helped these cities get more policemen, and to be honest with you, our cities, like you were talking about in New York, they got very small recruits, very small classes. I mean, nobody, especially when I know that there's been some really bad stories about police brutality and things like that, but you can't throw out everybody over over a bad cop. You can't throw out the majority. And I think the cameras might help, but we need the police out there, and we need to support them. But honestly, I think with the police being afraid to do their job and the city being so violent, it's very difficult to have recruits. So maybe temporarily you do need the extra manpower, I mean, it's you know, I didn't see anything or hear anything in the streets that would warrant the National Guard, but there definitely has to be something done about the crime. And you know, if one thing, if calling out the National Guard changes the mentality of crime prevention, maybe that in itself might help something. I'm not totally against it. I think would I rather, you know, walk through these neighborhoods that I'm talking about, I wouldn't go to on a bet. You know, would I do it now, or would I be more willing to do it if the National Guard was there? You know, I mean, I can see pros and cons both ways, but I do believe that something more needs to be done about crime in certain cities, and ours being one, and Memphis is also at the top of the list, you know, cities like that. But thanks, Gary.
You know how to stop the 3 takeovers of the drag racers and the people doing wheelies in the middle of intersections?
How's that?
Give each cop a fire hydrant wrench. I'm not kidding you. I knew a cop in Detroit. He was a traffic cop. He worked alone. He got a call that they're drag racing along the I-75 service drive, and I would ride with him. And we would pull up. He'd pop his trunk. He'd pull out the wrench, and he'd open up the fire hydrant. And there would be hundreds of people out there. And it was just him against hundreds of people, and they all went, "Oh man!" And they moved to another location, sometimes in a different precinct, and we would follow them and open up the fire hydrants there. That's how you do it. Interesting, huh?
Do you know, is there networking between the police departments where they share some of these techniques and things? I mean, that could help as well.
Supposedly there is, but there's a lot of breakdown because of competition between departments. It's sometimes not dissimilar to what we saw before 9/11, when, you know, the FBI wasn't talking to the CIA, who wasn't talking to the DEI, who wasn't talking to this one, who wasn't talking to that one. And if you pool your resources and information and you're not competitive but cooperative, and it doesn't matter to you who solves the crime or prevents the crime or who gets the credit and who doesn't get the credit, and that's a real tough hill to climb. But if you can accomplish that, you could get a lot more done. When I was a reporter in Jackson, Michigan, at the Jackson Citizen Patriot, I was on the public safety beat, and that meant every morning going to the Jackson City Police Station, then to the Michigan State Police Post, and then to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, and go over the reports, looking for stories to put in that day's newspaper, you know, the crime blotter stuff. It was really grunt work. It wasn't real good reporting or anything. However, in so doing, I noticed a crime pattern that the law enforcement was totally unaware of, because it depended on which police department responded to it, and they just didn't, any one of the individual police departments, see enough of it to recognize a pattern. I recognized the pattern. So when I would go to the sheriff's department, the undersheriff really hated the news media. He would come in early in the morning just to meet me and sit there and scowl at me when I went over the reports. So who did I decide to give my revelation to? Not to the city cops who were nice to me, not to the state troops who, by the way, in Michigan, they bend over backwards, the Michigan State Police, to cooperate with the news media, and that gives the impression that they're a terrific police department. It's just psychological. It works perfectly well because reporters are human beings too, and they want to be treated nice. If you're not treated nice, you bristle and you look for things. Just human nature. So it works. But this guy was a real jerk. So what I did is I said to him, "Sheriff, oh my God, guess what's been going on?" And I pointed out, and his eyes opened wide, and they formed a task force, and they busted the guys. And you know, they had their news conference. I didn't get credit for it. I didn't want credit for it. I was just happy to point it out to him. And from that point on, he was so much nicer to me. He even gave me coffee when I came in the morning. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, Gary. Yeah. I just wanted to ask Brian a question, because I know it's over 10 years ago now, but is there a perception in your area that things have improved, for example, with the issues that were involved with Ferguson? Because obviously, because of that immediate need, the National Guard was called in. But do you believe that area is safer now than it had been?
I'm not really in that area, but I don't hear too many stories about crime in that area. So I would say, based on the little bit I know, that it's probably safer now. That's not really one of the places that makes the news a lot.
So it's interesting, Howard, you should mention Ferguson. And I just want to say anecdotally again, during those disturbances in Ferguson, people were saying, look at it, they're burning down their own neighborhood. They're tearing up their own neighborhood. And I'm looking at the remote video coming into the newsroom. And I'm looking at the people tearing up the streets. And I said, I know this guy. I know that guy. They were professional protesters and agitators. I saw them on the streets of Detroit when I was a reporter there. I bumped into some of them during the George Floyd protests here in New York City. Hey, Gary, you know, they didn't care that I recognized it was somebody that I knew from Detroit. They were professional agitators causing the problems in Ferguson. So I asked one of our reporters on the ground, check the arrest reports tomorrow and see how many people actually live in Ferguson who are arrested. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but the vast majority of them were not just not Ferguson residents. A lot of them were St. Louis as well. But
You're correct.
were from Ferguson. But a bunch of them were from out of state. But the perception, again, becomes the reality. And people watching on television would say, what's the matter with those people? They're upset that the cops killed this guy, and then they go burn down their own businesses? What a bunch of idiots. Well, actually, it wasn't, by and large, them who were getting arrested for looting the businesses and setting them on fire. It was people from outside the community. Kind of interesting. Linda.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I really think this is a very good topic, Gary. You always come with the really good topics and you bring both sides of the argument. You look at all points and you bring some facts about, crime has gone down. I'm really not sure how I feel about the National Guard being out in D.C. I live in Cincinnati. We did have a problem with gun crime and violent crime. We had some problems with downtown. And then I live in Cincinnati, but I'm from Dayton, Ohio. We had a lot of issues with crime downtown, rioting, fights, and the donuts in the middle of the street. So the police brought a heavy presence to, stop that. So it is a fact when, you have uniformed people out walking the streets, that their presence does something, people tend to avoid committing crimes. On the other hand, like you said, if I'm seeing the National Guard all outside and a bunch of police, I'm kind of more afraid to kind of go out. I'm a little bit nervous. Not saying I would commit a crime or anything crazy. It just to see that, to see all these guards National Guard and see police and the military, it would kind of make me just a little afraid. That's just me personally. I'm like, what's going on? Maybe I should stay inside. That's just how I am personally. That would be my initial reaction. So I am a little bit worried too about if you're walking by, would there be stop and frisk? Would people get harassed by the police? Would there be over policing? That I don't know. So it's just a whole interesting thing to see how this plays out. And I just kind of wonder if crime has declined then why does Donald Trump see the need to put the National Guard out there and say this stuff? So it's just interesting. I kind of want to just see how the whole thing plays out. Thank you so much.
Politically, it's working very much in his favor if the polling data that I posted yesterday to the chat, linked above, is accurate. That people are, a majority of Americans are thankful that somebody is doing something, and the somebody doing something is Donald Trump. They believe that they've elected a sheriff and that the sheriff was needed. And if I were the president, I would look at that polling data and say, let's forge forward. Politically, it really is helpful to his party. And the other part of this is, and I don't think that the polling went this deep into it, but this has got to be injurious to the Democrats. All of the conservative commentators are talking about how, and by the way, Howard is absolutely correct, nobody is out supporting crime. Oh, I want crime on my streets. But the conservative commentators are talking about how the Democrats embrace crime, that they're protecting the criminals and not the law-abiding citizens. And finally, the Republican president of the United States is doing something about it from a political standpoint. This is a major supportive point, I believe, going into the midterm elections. And if I were a Republican strategist, I would encourage the president and the party and the conservative pundits to keep beating that drum. I think it's just, I'm not saying that it's a good policy. I'm saying that from a partisan political perspective, it is a big win for the Republicans. Something to think about. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Les.
So crime has been going down since at least the 90s. And I grew up in the south side of Chicago, and I can tell you...
The baddest part of town. And did you know Mr. Leroy Brown?
And there's another song that talks about the east side of Chicago, which of course is Lake Michigan. So only fish live there. But anyway, I'm just saying that crime has been going down since at least the 90s. And there's a bunch of different factors. One is demographics. Old people and walkers don't commit as many strong arm robberies. And we have cameras all over downtown. So, people behave better when they're being watched, or they believe they could be watched. And people don't carry around as much money. And there was a blip where that turned around at the time of the things like the George Floyd riots and stuff, or whatever, where people were saying and if police don't feel like you have their backs, they have to make these fraction of a second decisions, and they want to have the feeling that the civilians are behind them. Otherwise, nobody wants that job. And that's, I believe, why they're having trouble getting people. Now, they should be getting people locally. I guess they're having some trouble with that. But just to, as you said, Gary, just to temporarily bring in someone for 30 minutes won't have a long-term effect on crime. And, you've got to do something permanent to have a permanent effect. And we don't also want people, National Guards that aren't particularly trained for the job. We're not a South American banana republic or Iran. We want to have a local police that is accountable to the voters.
Clearly,
if the data are correct in the long term, that the influx of the National Guard has a positive effect in reducing crime, and the National Guard is there for a finite period of time, what happens, as you point out and as was said before, when the Guard leaves? So if you're calling the National Guard in because you have an immediate emergency, like there's flooding and people need to be rescued from the rooftops of their homes, you bring them in for that emergency, and then when the emergency subsides, you thank them profusely and you send them back home.
Right.
But if the flooding does not subside, but it may wane for 30 days, but then when you pull the Guard out, as a result of pulling the Guard out, suddenly the flooding ramps up again, then what have we done? For a few days, we've stopped the tidewaters, but we haven't diked it up permanently. So I don't know if there's any discussion about a long-term solution. If Washington, D.C. is such a problem and he wants to make this a spectacular, beautiful city, what do we do after the Guard leaves? And by the way, I neglected to point this out. Yesterday, they sent the National Guard out to do a different kind of policing. You know, when you are in the service, when they say go police this area, what they're telling you to do is to pick up the litter. And they literally had busloads of National Guard troops in the area of Lafayette Park across from the White House picking up the litter. Not to say that the litter ought not to be picked up, and not to say that it's a shame that in the shadow of the White House, literally, we have this kind of disgusting filth that you don't find in other countries. You wouldn't find it in Singapore or in Tokyo, but you certainly find it in the parks of our major cities. But the National Guard? And by the way, Scott talked about these after-school programs, and I read, and I don't know how accurate this is, it's costing them $1 million a day to put the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Somebody can fact check me on that and correct me if I'm wrong. I read it, but I didn't verify it. But whatever it is, it's expensive. Imagine if you had some kind of a program for homeless people or for after school to keep kids busy rather than ripping and running on the streets, where you pay them to go pick up the litter. What if the federal government said, you know, this is a great way to fight crime and make the city look beautiful. We don't have to bring in the National Guard to do this. We'll give the District of Columbia the money to hire people, homeless people and high school students to clean up Lafayette Park and other parts of the city. Well, that's thinking a little bit outside the box, and it doesn't give the same impression of having uniformed troops on the street there to protect us. Thank you, Les.
Well, could I
Yes.
add one more thing?
Of course.
Sure, thank you. So the one part of crime that kind of makes me feel like it's out of control are the organized shoplifting. But the solution to that is probably, just treating it as a, I think it would be worthwhile trying to help solve that problem. And every time I have to go get a if I want to get a razor blade or something, that might be pickpocketed, it's locked up and it just, there's no reason I should be treated like a thief, potential thief, or inconvenience.
And I don't know where you live, but here in New York City, they put guards at the drugstores, and they're there, but they're not supposed to stop people from shoplifting. They're not supposed to engage it with them, and if they do, they can get fired. So why do you have them there? And everybody knows they're not going to do anything. So if I'm a perpetrator, I don't mind walking into a Walmart, a Walgreens, and stealing stuff off the shelves. Have a good day. As I walk out, I say to the guard. It's kind of weird. Thank you, Les. We're now, I know there are folks that are trying to get up on the stage, but we are past that moment because we are now at 6:02 p.m. New York time. So we now go into extra time. If you wanted to make your feelings known and you can't get up on the stage, I encourage you to click on the link above and make your feelings known in our very vibrant, active chat that's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your edification, enjoyment, entertainment, and information. So now we will close out by hearing from Dave, Tiger, Paul, Chris, and King. Dave.
Okay, I'm comparing Trump first term, Biden term, and Trump second term in terms of if crime out of control and whether National Guard involved. I think we already heard from prior speaker what happened in Trump first term, and that's Biden terms. Apparently, crime has under control. I think the question is timing. So, is there a timing here? Why National Guard needed here? So, I like to look at the timing. That means like in the National Guard are in DC from August till November. So the question is, what is happening in this August, September, October, and November? I think, and that is one aspect. The other aspect is Trump is using tariff to attract many business, like you say, Gary, that the perception of the foreign investor that the city where they're going to relocate to must be stable, must be low civil unrest, and so on, right? And like you say, in Singapore, Malaysia, there's no tolerance for civil unrest that actually disrupt business, right? So the question is, what are the potential contribution to civil unrest in the next few months? August to November. So what happened now to those 2024 campus-wide pro-Palestine protests we witnessed? Now they move on to corporate. They're targeting company, right? So August 19, they occupied headquarters of Microsoft. They renamed one of the place into Palestine something freedom blah blah. And that kind of image is exactly what you do not want foreign investor coming to US relocating their company. And so the Microsoft is just one of the example, right? So the question is, in the coming months, the future of Palestine in Gaza will be decided. It is likely that two-state solution is that date. So what is going to happen to all those energy built out from 2024 in campus and 2025 moving to corporate, public institution and so on. So and Trump just wrote in the X that he's going to go after potentially the root cause of this pro-Palestine motivated civil unrest, and that is he's going to go after George Soros, right? So in anticipation to going after this and potentially backfire from all this progressive group to cause civil unrest, in anticipation that two-state solution is dead. So having National Guard is a good deterrent. So the question I'm trying to say is the timing during this time is good deterrence, at least for the next 3 months. That when any group thinking of causing civil unrest to disrupt the foreign investment coming to US and create jobs, they need to think twice, because there is an additional fact. Not only the local police, maybe some of them they already know so well, but this unknown factor coming from National Guard. That's it, Gary.
George Soros just celebrated a week ago his 95th birthday. What are they going to do for a boogeyman when George Soros is no longer on the scene?
His son, Trump wrote him as his son.
Oh, suddenly we will know the name of George Soros's son. I see. There are those who might agree that this is a diversionary tactic, but I think a lot of those who would say that this and many of the other controversial things that are coming out of the White House are not just out of the box thinking, and that there isn't really this grand plan to make the perception of the United States a safer nation in which to invest, and more about taking our eye off the Epstein ball. And here's a little secret. The reason these multinational companies, even if they are registered in the great state of Delaware and are thereby quote unquote American companies, the reason they invest overseas is because the cost of labor is less overseas. And so they are not patriotic American citizens wrapped in the American flag, willing to make a sacrifice for the benefit of the United States by reinvesting in the United States of America, because their only loyalty is a fiduciary loyalty to their investors, whether they are a private concern or a public concern that has to worry about the stockholders. The bottom line is always the bottom line when it comes to business. So I don't know really whether your observation, which may be accurate, which I know you make several times when you come to the stage, and that's fine, I don't know if it really holds. And I'll give you an opportunity to respond to my response to you.
I think this projection of safety is not only important for US. Like you say, Trump is the only sheriff is going to do something. Now I'm quoting UK. Many people are quoting Trump now. He's going to make it safe. And he's the only one who's doing something. So what Trump is doing is not only good for America, it has a ripple effect to European country. So what I'm trying to say is beyond investment and also protection of Jews. Because in the coming months, when the two-state solution is over, and we will see example like Robin Weston, right, in Memphis, his weapon is all about killing Jews, killing Jews, killing Jews. So just having National Guard perhaps give an additional deterrent, thinking twice before doing some stupid thing like that.
Well, as I said at the onset, receptions are the reality. I just checked, and I was surprised to see that the top two nations, $1 trillion each, that the United States companies invest in, are not third world nations. The top two are the United Kingdom and the Netherlands. I find that to be quite interesting. And there are reasons behind that, but that blows my perceptions out of the water a little bit. Thank you, Dave, and we'll now go to Tiger.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think the National Guard is the best way to fight crime, but, I think we can all agree on that. But it is one way of fighting crime. Donald is trying something. Let's just monitor if it works. We can have the same discussion in a couple of months to see if that was, in any way beneficial. But I guess what I really want to say is, why would Americans only talk about this when Donald Trump is doing this? And why would many Americans, would only talk about crime as a way to bash Trump? I find that baffling. I think the crime rate has always been a problem. It might be actually getting better, but it's still a problem. And Americans shouldn't accept that their cities are not as safe as it could be. So I actually hope the media of this country talk about the crime rate more often, and not just because Donald Trump is doing the National Guard thing. I mean, just today, 19 kids are being shot at a Catholic school. And why not just talk about it every day and not try to frame this as a Trump issue?
Well, I think there's a real big misconception, and the criticism, I don't think you're really criticizing this room in particular. You said Americans. But there's a perception that when I pick among several people who have articulated this to me, that when I pick these topics, I'm picking the topics for the express purpose of bashing the President of the United States. Because they come in here and they hear so many people being critical of the president. But as you know, Tiger, because if I did screen, you might not make it onto the stage to begin with, right? I don't screen the callers. I have no idea who's going to come into the room at any given day, who in the room is going to raise their hand and come up onto the stage. I do not deny anybody, including known trollers, from coming up onto the stage. I allow them to come up on the stage. People send me back channel messages. Why did you let her on the stage? She's a comedian and she's just trying to do her stand-up. Or why did you let Kitover on the stage again? Because so many people, they don't like how he operates. The gentleman who's running for Congress in Illinois, they don't like how he operates in Clubhouse. I don't keep anybody off the stage. And I try to frame the discussions based on what is happening. The driving force for these discussions is not Gary. The driving force for the discussions is Trump. He's the president. He is enacting certain policies, making certain pronouncements, issuing executive orders, meeting with certain world leaders, and making commentary before, sometimes during, and after his meetings with the foreign leaders. All this is newsworthy. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah, Gary,
let me finish.
Yeah,
I let you go without interrupting you.
Well, not all.
So, today, did I interrupt you?
No. I'm just saying.
Okay, so don't be rude. So, it's a good tactic though to try to break my train of thought. Very good.
I'm sorry.
So
that's not.
No, yes it is, and it's fine. So, if you notice, if you were here in the beginning, as a previous caller so graciously pointed out, and I'm so happy she recognizes this, one of the reasons my opening remarks are as long as they are is because I'm trying, in setting the discussion, to balance it out as much as possible. We're trying to be critical thinkers here. So I pointed out some of the potential pitfalls of today's topic and some of the potential positive aspects of today's topic. And then people come up to the stage we could have had, and it's happened in the history, because there's kind of like an ebb and flow of this on a Clubhouse. Alan, who's been with me from the very beginning and before when we were on Pal Talk before coming to Clubhouse, could tell you, when we first opened this room, it was all MAGA people coming in the room. And the liberals couldn't hardly, they felt uncomfortable. Everybody was supporting Trump. Everybody was supporting Trump. Everybody was supporting Trump. I don't control who's going to come up onto the stage at all. And this is a matter, and all the matters we discuss here are matters of grave concern in our society. If people believe that the initiatives that the president takes are in the aggregate injurious to the nation, they're going to come up on the stage and they're going to critique him. Now, I've been at this on social media for, oh my God, if you stop and think about it, 25 years I've been doing this. 25 years. Is that right? Have I been doing this 25 years, Alan? Has it been that long? Not obviously on Clubhouse. Clubhouse hadn't been even conceived. And I've heard from all kinds of people, all points of view, and I can tell you that both on Clubhouse and on previously on Pal Talk, when Biden was the president, people came up on the stage to criticize Biden because there were things that Biden did that they didn't like. And he was criticized for his perceived mental incapacities. Fairly or unfairly, people came up on the stage and they criticized Biden because he's the president of the United States. And the same thing when Obama was president. I just say this to suggest that unlike in, say, I don't know, what other country could I think of? China. In the United States, you can actually criticize your dear leader. In China, you cannot, because you're going to get in trouble in China if you do. That's not always true. That's why certain social media is brought down if people criticize. That's why people in China are trapped using their smartphones. And if they associate with people who are known to be dissenters, then they lose their right to transportation. We don't do that in the United States. In the United States,
do, but second of all, that doesn't happen.
No, we don't. And yet, secondly, it does. It's documented. You can deny it all you want. It happens in China. In our country, it is actually patriotic to criticize your government. That's why we have a First Amendment. It's patriotic.
Entirely.
Well, you know what? Then I purposely hijacked your point to misrepresent it.
Exactly.
I know you're going to say that.
No,
but don't come on here. Don't come on here and criticize. Don't come on here and criticize people because they are exercising. Not me. Don't be an alligator. Open your ears. Don't come on here and criticize people for expressing their criticism of the President of the United States. Perhaps your frame of reference with regard to that is different than those who grew up in the United States of America.
Yeah, let me respond a little bit if you could. So I guess a few days ago, Anson opened a room, and the title of the room is "Who's Responsible for the Chaos in America?" And the four options are the Democrats, the Republicans, the people, and the media. I guess if I'm criticizing anybody, it's the media, and you're right.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that there was another room that did this, or are you saying that that's what we did in this room?
No, it was Anson's room.
Oh, I don't care about other rooms.
We're way off topic.
No, the point is,
I don't care anything about other rooms. And I don't care about your criticism of the media. The media is not a monolithic group. For God's sakes, and you know that. The media. There's no such thing as, it's like the internet says that the internet is so happy about Tay-Tay and Kelsey getting engaged. No, the internet is not a person. The media is not a person. The media are varying groups of news organizations. So if you say the media, that's all inclusive. So all I have to do is find one example contrary to whatever argument you were about to make. But once again, Tiger, I allowed you on the stage knowing that 9 times out of 10, you're going to try to change the subject to one that you want to propagandize. And once again, you tried, but failed. Try again tomorrow. Paul, Chris, and King. Paul.
Good evening, sir. It's 11:22 in the evening here in the UK, so I've stayed up late, especially Gary. All of that.
And we appreciate you for doing so, because you are a terrific contributor, Paul.
Thank you very much. And all of that just to hear Scott's poor impression of the president as well. Maybe that should be against the law. Anyway, a couple of points I wanted to address. I'll keep it brief because it is getting late for both you and me. One, statistics in terms of crime statistics. I think statistics are manipulated around the world about crime statistics because realistically, what we should all be heading for, in my humble opinion, Gary, is we should be looking at the country that can achieve the lowest crime rate, and that should be the statistic against which we all compare. Because ultimately, as you said earlier on, and someone else said in the room, I don't know anybody that actually supports crime. Maybe there are people in this room that support crime, but or maybe crime supports them. But I think most people don't support crime, so therefore we should look at the best statistic in the world and we should say, how do we get to that or beyond that for our individual countries? So I think all those statistics.
Iceland, according to the Global Peace Index, the most peaceful.
Dude, I love my family. I'm just saying that, you know, it's very logistically difficult. Yeah. Unless, like, well, I mean, if I could get a free loan at any bank in the world, I would probably take my baby kids too.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, he can afford it. You can't. That's the reason why you filed a loan.
What's the magic word, Norm? I've seen it. It's on YouTube. I can look it up.
What is it?
If you just tell me. There's like a magic word. It's like I need a halal loan or something like that. There's a word for it. It's like an interest-free loan.
I'm not sure what.
That's a Muslim thing.
No, they don't even do interest. Period. They don't do loans.
No, they don't do interest. They you know, HSBC was the first bank that came up with a Muslim branch.
Wait, Diego, you know damn well that the Guidos will do a fucking interest-free loan. It's a favor, though. You'll get money, but you don't do a favor down the road, right?
It's called a Gemachim loan.
What is that, a Jewish thing?
Yeah.
I don't know
how to pronounce it. G-E-M-A.
It's a Jewish thing, as according to a Nazi sympathizer.
But
no, I actually heard an Asian guy talk about it.
Is he a Nazi sympathizer or a Nazi? Yes. That's his call. I think
There's only one Nazi in this.
Yeah, I don't think there are real Nazis anymore.
He's a sympathizer.
Adjacent, yeah.
Who's a bigger Nazi, me or Diego or Mr. T?
Listen, if any of you would ever call yourself a Nazi. I mean, like Hitler would be very, very disappointed in you. You both are faggots, and you don't represent the Nazis well enough. So I think you guys would be an embarrassment to the Nazis.
Well, I'm not German. Why would I join the fucking Nazis?
No.
It doesn't matter, but yeah.
All right.
You would be an embarrassment.
Polish Nazis and American Nazis.
You'll be
You guys
right.
would be an embarrassment.
Yeah, George Rockwell. He wasn't German.
I mean,
But
you
they
cannot
killed
be a
him.
Nazi. You cannot be a Nazi from your basement, right? And pretend to be a.
Hey, Nick Fuentes gave that a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And look what an embarrassment he is.
He's on the
for
cover of
anyone.
Grudge today.
On the what? On the cover of what?
He's like on the cover of the New York Times. He's like on the news right now.
Oh. Wow, the New York
He's still
Times.
relevant.
For what? He is very relevant to the younger men.
All right.
I actually want to.
Times today.
I want to watch that interview
Grudge.
he did with Candace Owens because I heard that they had a fallout after the interview.
Yes, that was great because she's such a hypocrite. That was a great one.
I don't know, but I am curious about it. It's just that I'm not gonna pay for any shit that she promotes, you know. But yeah.
She's gonna release it in a week or something for free.
Yeah, I don't know because it was like a month ago or more, and they have not released it for free. And when I went to the link, like you had to pay like $20 or something like that. I'm not gonna give her money.
Well, you can't hate Candace Owens even like she's very white supremacist when she's on her own.
No, listen,
You know, very like anti-Jewish.
I like
But then-
Candace Owens when it comes to like a black narrative. I think that she's very spot on in her arguments, and she's a very intelligent woman. However, I don't know what the hell happened to her, but she's buying into every single conspiracy theory.
Well, she's right about
And
the
she
Macron
doesn't
thing.
even, but she doesn't even bother like checking the details of the things that she
No,
talks
There
about.
is something
And
that
when-
happened to her.
When it comes, hold on, when it comes to the war in Gaza, like she's got like 90% of it wrong, completely wrong. She's super brainwashed, and it's just annoying to see her speak about the war. I don't like it.
Well, I've talked to
She doesn't
somebody
care.
who legitimately I know for a fact, basically behind the scenes at Daily Wire, she has a lot of issues going on. Like after her pregnancy, she's had a lot of like mental health type issues. That's even why like the Daily Wire was not really going in on her and kind of just remaining quiet and let her go. She's just not doing well, and so
So
Oh, we made everything worse.
Yeah, she's gone off the deep end with the whole thing about the war. And Tucker Carlson is someone that I really love, you know, and now when talking about the whole war thing, like he's going like full on deranged. Like I think that these guys, I don't know if it's a thing like they said a comment and just like walking back from that, it's too difficult. So instead they just keep pushing even further. But they just, it just makes them sound crazy, completely crazy.
It's
They're
because
making even logic.
it's because Candace got fucked really good. That's how she got pregnant, and she got fucked stupid. That's the answer to it. It's a simple answer.
She's brilliant and she's spot on, and you guys need to let her keep doing her thing.
But for example, you see, what's the name of this guy? Kisin, Konstantin Kisin. Sometimes he takes like a pretty, let's say, objective stand, you know, when it comes to like the war and all these Jewish stuff. But he doesn't need to push against the Jews. He just kind of like, okay, he thinks that the war and killing people and so many deaths and whatever, yeah, it's a sad thing, like I think everyone else, you know, but in the end he uses the logic and he uses like the right philosophy.
Well, she just went deep. You know, you start
No,
peeling
it's
back
not
the layers. She
deep.
went deep, and it's all there for everyone to see.
She doesn't even bother like checking her facts. I don't think that she's able to comprehend what's happening. Like all this narrative of the women and the children, like people that use it don't even bother going into actual details of who is dead or who has been reported dead. You know, like they repeat this stupid thing about like, oh, 70 or 80% of the deaths in Gaza are women and children. That's bullshit. It's not how it is. Now, if you discount all the deaths of the militants, because the majority of militants are, or the majority of men are militants, confirmed militants, then yeah, you are left with a bunch of women and children. And so if you only take that as like the civilians, then yeah, you increase the percentage of women and children, but it doesn't mean that those figures are true. I mean, like the majority of men in Gaza are militants.
But that came from the BBC.
Yeah, of course, but do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't understand what you're saying. This is the BBC.
If you have 50,000 deaths and 80% of the men in Gaza are militants, and then I mean, based on that, like, I don't know, like probably 30,000 of militant, or 30,000 account for militants, then you're left with only 20,000. Those 20,000 will not have any men because men are not civilians. Men are militants. So of course, if you take away the men from the civilians, you're left with only children
Not
and
all
women.
of those men were militants. Come on, stop it.
Well, the vast majority of men in Gaza are militants.
Where's your sources?
UN.
Okay, drop that.
Oh God, Jesus Christ! You're gonna make me go look for it. Just go look for that.
She doesn't have any. The United Nations people that get killed in Gaza on a regular basis, yeah, they have the numbers.
One day you guys love the UN, and the next day, they have the
the UN.
One day you hate the UN, and then the next day it's the absolute truth. Stop it.
So
No,
even the UN. This is amazing. Even the UN,
to the
which is
figures that
highly
are published by the UN.
Issa, can I address this?
Yeah, but Mayor just came back to the app.
Great word.
Oh, he was out. He was off.
He got kicked out.
No.
Yeah, Mayor, follow me back.
Oh,
No, I
Mayor.
wasn't kicked off. I'm just busy. I'm gonna be
You were
busy.
No, it didn't happen. He wasn't kicked out yet.
He has a real life.
Oh.
Wait, where are
I
you?
don't know. I've been off. I've been 28 days off, Meyer, so I don't know if you were around.
What you doing, Sam? Okay, there you are.
It was almost like nothing changed at all while you were gone.
Yeah, you guys talking about with news. It's horrible.
No, I haven't been in rooms like this for a long time because you deal with retards that say things like, but it was in the BBC, so they can lie. The BBC lied too. And then when you tell them even the About UN,
9/11,
you hate the UN. So when you're dealing with that level of low,
You want me to believe some random quack on Clubhouse? Come on.
I am explaining you
She painfully explained to you why the numbers are manipulated, and your response was, well, the BBC also manipulated.
No, I said post your
that's
source.
a level of
And she said, you're going to make me go post my source?
No, she said
You're
UN,
not
and
going
then you
to
like,
accept my black.
no, she said UN, and you're like, you like UN? No,
Where's the source? Where's the source?
Even the UN,
where's the source?
The regular.
Where's the source?
Never mind. You go ahead and believe what you want to believe. If you're that retarded, stay retarded.
Where's the source?
Aww. What's up, Sam?
Can I say something about the BBC? It doesn't work. Like, you need people to feed it to you. Like, someone needs to say it, and then you say, if this person said it, I believe it. Why don't you kind of analyze multiple of data points and come up to the conclusion yourself? You want to talk about it? We can talk about it.
Where's
Like Hamas, for example.
Where's a source that supports anything?
It's a conversation. I will tell you.
It's a
Listen, I will tell you. Hold on. You know that, once again, you know that Hamas is the government in Gaza for the last 2 decades, right? This is like a fact. You don't need a source for this, right?
Funded by Israel, yes.
No, and hold on. The
Oh
source
my God,
is
hold
the
on.
the source is the raw
Okay, I'm done.
data. Oh my God.
When you're not dealing with
source-
retards funded by Israel.
the source
that's
is
level
the-
of discord.
The source is
Maybe
the
it's
raw.
me,
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's retarded. Isa is retarded. Like, I'm
No,
telling you
but
about
I
Hamas,
know,
funded
but
by Israel. It's like we let.
I am not repeating something that
No, but
I
he's now
heard.
talking about
Hold on,
sources.
just finish.
He's talking about sources, but he's talking about like funded by Israel, which is like he never checked any source.
Hold on, let me finish this. So I am not talking about a narrative that I heard somewhere talking about this. I looked at the UN raw numbers that they were claiming, and then when you see the amount of men, the amount of militants, the amount of women, the amount of children, you just need to see the data. And yes, when they talk about 70-80% of women and children, what it does is because they took away the men from the civilians, because most of the men are militants, then yeah, you're left with no men civilians. So that is what pushes up the percentages of women and children as civilians.
How many members of Hamas are there? How many members of Hamas are there?
You don't need hold on. You don't need to have a membership card in Hamas, okay? And this is what you don't understand. Hamas is their ideology. They are being the government of Gaza for the last 2 decades.
So is Zionism.
Teaching. Okay, so is this. Listen, it's a retarded conversation. Let's move on. You guys are like, you're incapable of having like a nuanced conversation. You're so triggered.
And they need,
it's retarded.
They don't only need the source, they don't only need the source of the information.
Yeah, the BBC, go watch the
This is the problem, Daniel. They don't only need the source of the information. It's like what you were saying. Like, they need also the food served, but also chewed. They
need it to align.
Chew the food for them so that they don't.
No, it needs to align. It needs to align with what they already believe. If it will be like whatever it's against, then it's a Zionist media or it's a Hasbara or Zionist propaganda or like a.
Looking at credible sources, and you have.
We are not. You know what? Hold on. Give me a minute. Okay, hold on. Isa, one second. Give me a minute. So you only care about credible information. You said like a minute ago that Israel is funding Hamas. Can you give me I want to see a reliable source that you consider reliable?
Who said that?
I want a credible source that says that Israel is funding Hamas.
Wait, no, you're deflecting now. No one's
funded. It was the past tense.
No, it was Diego who said it at the little
And I posted the link right there.
Where's the link from?
Wikipedia.
From where?
Make it very easy for you.
I see only Wikipedia.
Yeah. And
that's a credible source.
Okay.
So now I know what is a credible source for you.
Wikipedia. It says The Intercept, Politico.
Give me the source. Give me the source that says that Israel.
New York Times.
Dude, why are you dancing around? Give me a source that says that Israel is funding Hamas.
Funded. It's past tense. Funded
Hamas. Give me something that shows that.
What year, Diego?
Read the fucking article.
No, read it out loud because I read it.
What do you think the source of the funds are, Diego?
Obviously, they're American because that's all that Israel can.
No, they're Qatari.
No, that's not true.
They're Qatari.
It's not we didn't fund it.
And they did not fund.
Reliable sources.
Actually, and you can go to the recent interview of Netanyahu because he addresses that as well with Konstantin Kisin. And yeah, it's true. What he says is like we allowed the funds coming from Qatar to go into Gaza. It was meant to do, I don't know, like infrastructure and whatever. If they had humanitarian. If they had denied the right for Qatar to transfer funds, they would have said that they are blocking Gaza and that's anti-starving Gaza or whatever.
There's another reason, and that is the PA, Palestinian Authority, is at war with Hamas. Hamas murdered tons of them. They don't get along. And the PA controls the banking system in so-called Palestine, or whatever you want to call it, Gaza and Judea and Samaria. So there's no way to get the Gazans any money except to go through Israel. And Israel allowed it to happen because they thought that this would be something that would create an alliance between Israel and Hamas. In other words, we're going to allow you to do what you're doing, and you're going to allow us to do what we're doing.
But there was no collaboration when it came to building the tunnels or to creating terror or to attacking Israel. That's sort of ridiculous. So yes, Israel was dealing with them because they had no other way to receive money, and Arab nations wanted to fund them, and Israel also wanted to keep things cool with Qatar. It's not like Israel funded Hamas. Get it?
Exactly.
So
it's not Israeli money. They just facilitated the transaction.
Middleman did, if you will. Well, how else were you going to get them the money? How else are you going to get them the money? Yeah. What's the answer? Only
So,
through
I mean, if they hadn't allowed that, Diego, you would be like, oh, Israel is abusing the Gazans because they are
Can we read what he put in the chat for him? So in the late 2010s and the early 2020s, Israeli officials encouraged Qatar to give aid to Hamas and approved the transfer of money from Qatar to the organization. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had said that the aid transfers were allowed for humanitarian reasons. Israeli intelligence officials believe that the Qatari money contributed to the success of October 7th. So you basically put something in the chat and tried to make everybody believe that it said something else.
Yeah, it's like you skipped everything that happened in the 70s and the 80s, huh?
Hamas wasn't alive in
As a matter of fact, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it was.
Oh, okay.
What point do you want to make about the 70s? No, Hamas didn't exist as such in the 70s. It was formed in the middle to late 80s. I think it was 88 as their official
88.
founding.
Yeah, they got into government, right?
No, 2006.
Five, six.
Or
2005 we went out and after
it was right before Israel left.
No, it was after Israel left.
No, after. They took over after we left. There was an election.
They left in 2005 and then Hamas got formed and took over in 2006.
No, they were formed in 88.
No, I know. They took over.
They were elected.
They were elected, yeah.
They were elected.
Violently elected.
Violently, exactly. Today I saw like a post from a guy in Gaza called Umar that he's upset that there's a new coffee shop opened called Nutella, and it's and his problem was with the name, that is a Zionist, he's showing like it's a brand new like a coffee house with the Nutella kind of logo, and he's upset, not that, that it's like a new coffee shop opening, like having their opening launch today. It looks very good. But the name that it's on the BDS and yada yada. It's on the BDS because Nutella has presence in Israel, meaning that they sell products in Israel.
I heard about this cafe. People were complaining that the portions were too large.
No, it's a serious thing. I can give you the Instagram account. You can check out the updates from the coffee shop.
Too much food.
Is that considered is it considered a roof
on this amount of food?
Is it considered a rooftop patio since there's no buildings?
And you know what? And the people there are the pro-Palestinians are telling him delete the post. You are ruining.
Delegitimizing our hate towards Israel and Jews. Yeah.
And those are people from Madrid and from he's from Gaza, yes. Those are all kinds of pro-Palestinians from all kinds of places. They're telling him delete it and you are a traitor and whatnot.
There are a lot of videos which
he took a picture in Gaza and he's a traitor, for fuck's sake.
There are a lot of reviews of restaurants that are open in Gaza right now. And there are some good ones. And there's video of them too. There's some really good ice cream shops.
In some areas are like this, but some areas are completely destroyed. I mean, that is true.
So the thing about the soldiers is, and that Issa was discussing that people have not elaborated about, is that there are many videos on YouTube that were put out by Hamas themselves, also put out by the Associated Press and CNN and whatever, showing the summer camps that were mandatory where Hamas took children and trained them to be soldiers. So all of the children that are being trained to be soldiers in those videos are more than likely waging this war right now. And this is something that seemed pretty mandatory for both males and females, and it also seemed because the women went to like Islamic camp and the boys went to soldiers camp.